live for the Pan American Post Show with George Galarregui. George, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, Isabella. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day. I'm in North Carolina. You're in Canada, right?
That is correct. That it's not as beautiful where I am right now. It's actually very wet and it's about 40-degree Fahrenheit.
Oh, Fahrenheit. Okay. No, no, we're at a nice 75, so I'm cherishing it. But congratulations on your win at Pan Am's. Do you want to tell everybody what you won there?
Basically, I won the overall 50 and over heavyweight. Won my division, and then I ended up going and fighting for the grands. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, congratulations. And
Thank
so, Alex mentioned to me that this has been your first competition back since the pandemic.
It's true.
Um, I know that there were border closures, and given that you live in Canada, it was difficult for Canadians to come to the United States. So, what has your training and your getting here? What did that look like?
Well, I've never really stopped training. I mean, I have the luxury of having my own little mini dojo in my place, and also having access to a 24-hour gym, which I strength train most of the time. But yes, we were closed for almost a year or so. We weren't able even to go to the gyms. A lot of schools, karate schools, were shut down during all that time. So it was a little difficult for us to practice, train amongst ourselves in sparring and so on. But kept busy, kept training, and yes, it was a long 21 months. The last time I fought was in Ireland in March of 2020.
Mhm.
So it was very interesting to be back on the tatamis. I was looking forward to it. I've been training myself mentally and physically to get back into it, and yeah, it went pretty well.
So when you say it was interesting to get back into the ring in a competition, what do you mean by that?
There's a lot of psychological preparation when you fight. Haven't been away from the competition for such a long time. You tend to lose all those I shouldn't say aptitudes, but the things you live on a regular basis going to the tournaments, like the stress. How do you manage the stress and so on and so forth. So it was. It's like riding a bicycle. I mean, you never really lose the habit of riding the bike, but getting back into it is a little, you're afraid that you're going to fall, get hurt, so you don't know what to expect. But it was an interesting one. But it's mostly psychological, like I said earlier. Training, the body was trained all this time, never really stopped. Uh,
Mm.
but it's to get to see the people and get into the vibes again. So it was good. I enjoyed it very much. I love fighting. Been doing it for a long time, but yeah, it was interesting.
So who did you fight at Pan Am's? What was the competition like?
Well, I was supposed to fight Ray Bryant. He couldn't make it because he was injured. I forget the other gentlemen that I fought against. I remember fighting against also Marshall Willie in the finals. Interesting, very strategic fight against a gentleman with a lot of experience. The match was not one of those super active, super fast, but there was a lot of strategy involved of who was going to score the point first. I fought also a gentleman, I think, from Latin America, if I'm not mistaken. That went well as well too. I got a little shot to the head, a little bruise, should I say, but went right back up, and it was fun. It was good.
Okay. And so you've been doing martial arts for so long, and I went back and actually watched one of your previous interviews with Alex, and
Mhm.
you in passing mentioned how you were diagnosed with a medical condition that caused you to stop doing martial arts for quite
Right,
some time. You
right.
said it was an interesting story, but never really dove deeper into it. So I was going to ask you if you could talk about that for this
Sure.
show.
Absolutely. At a young age, I had fallen from a roof of a house a patch of ice. Had a lot of back problems, back injuries. Always had a weak back, and as I aged, at some point it really got to the point that it was unbearable. So I had to stop to do a lot of my activities, and luckily enough, I got one of my good friends who's in the strength and conditioning industry saw me. He spoke with me. He said, George, let me help you out and see how we could get you back into the ring because I know you love martial arts.
Mhm.
Been training ever since. I've gone through so many therapies. So I was away. I'm more from the traditional martial arts. I started with the Kyokushinkai style, then went through the Shorin Ryu, and nowadays I'm more into the Yosekan,
Mhm.
the KMC team. But it was interesting to see that for a while I was sort of like, okay, what do I do here? Am I continuing this? Am I not? So I took a little break, a little pause. But it was more of not being able to do certain moves. Always getting up with back injuries. My just bending now, my back would lock and would be sort of like a semi paralysis. Not a fun situation to be with, but ended up through certain therapies, injections of certain substances, legal substances, should I say? And today I'm greatest shape of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you could not tell. I watched highlight videos of you doing jump spin kicks, and your body punch is so fast.
Right.
You genuinely could not tell that you have that entire backstory to you.
Yeah.
Um, and so you mentioned Team KMC. There's so many great Canadian fighters on that team. How did you get involved with them, and what's it like been being involved with that team and that
Uh,
school?
I would say to me it was a blessing to having crossed Robbie Francoeur, who was the sensei of that school. As you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of great athletes and champions that came out of that school. Robbie is one of them. His son, Jeremy Francoeur, as well, who's part of a TDE dojo team. Michael Macri, who's also with the Key Talk team. We also have Corina Bellin that also joined us. That's part of the um, Stir Up team. So yes, myself, I'm part of the Legend teams, and we have fun doing what we're doing. But we have a great mentor, a great team. How did I get to join the team, the school, should I say? I went to a tournament. It was a comeback tournament for me after many years not doing anything. Um, Fought, and it was a, how can I say, not, it didn't turn out the way I wished it would have turned out. But I knew somebody in the ring that had introduced me to Robbie, and from there on it's been a love story ever since. And as a matter of fact, we're training again tonight. We're training very hard. We love what we do. We love sparring. We can't wait to be able to start traveling again. Things are looking great. We should be getting some good news hopefully within the next week or so from our governments allowing us to go to these tournaments. But until then, we have to wait. But we're so eager to come and fight back in the U.S. again.
So this might be a silly question, but were there certain restrictions that you had to go through in order to get to Pan Am's from Canada?
It's actually very difficult. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved.
Mhm.
Why us? Why Canada? I wouldn't be able to tell you why. It's mostly of a political thing. But yes, it was complicated. To get into the U.S., you obviously have to show a negative test to get in. That's fine. And then coming back, you have to show another negative test. But that's another issue. I mean, and these tests are so expensive.
Mhm.
Uh, Overall, you could be looking, depending where you go, anywhere between $200 to $300. So having anybody from up here in Canada wanting to travel for a weekend
Mhm.
to go fight, let's say in the northeast coast, New York, or those areas, already that it's expensive to travel, you have to add that cost to it. So it makes it that people are less inclined to travel. But hopefully, things will get better in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, our government will allow us to go in and out without having to give any more of those tests.
So was it worth it, the cost associated with coming here versus your experience at Pan Am's and how you did?
Uh, like I said, I love fighting. I love that. It was 100% worth it. Even though I missed a team fight on Friday night, which I love to team fight, my
Mhm.
flight was delayed 4 times. We were stuck on the tarmac, and we had to go back to the terminal because there was some hydraulic issues. So it made it that I couldn't manage the team fight. But yes, it was worth it 100%.
So you are both part of the KMC school and also on Team Legend. How did you get involved with Team Legend?
Uh, Long story. Well, long short story.
Okay.
I've always wanted to join a team, and once we spoke with Tony. Tony said, "Yeah, actually, we would be more than glad to have you on the team." And from that point on, we joined in, and we've been in love ever since. So I traveled the world as what I do for work, and if I have an opportunity of fighting in a tournament at the same time, I always bring my uniform with me and my gloves,
Mhm.
and there I go. I represent Legend as I go around.
Very cool. So, you said you're in the strength and conditioning industry. How does that background inform your martial arts, if at all?
It does. How can I say? It reinforces everything that we do. In the off season time, yes, I do dedicate a lot of time at strength and conditioning. It gives me more power, more speed, more agility. Awakening the all of the cognitive system. It brings everything up, so it prepares you when it's time to fight, and when it's time to take off, you have the speed, you have the power, you have everything that comes with you. So I strongly suggest anybody who wants to pursue fighting or doing these types of things. First thing it's going to do is going to give you all these elements of speed, strength, and power, but it will also allow you to have a greater longevity in terms of being healthy and avoiding all these injuries, because most of the times these injuries are caused by lack of strength on certain muscle groups. I could name so many athletes in the ring nowadays that have some sort of a sports athletic background, and they perform super well in sports karate. One of them happens to be Bailey Murphy. He's in the track and field, so he understands. Don't ask yourself the question why he's so fast. He's got so much speed because he applies a lot of his techniques to the sport.
Okay. So my last question is, given your experience taking a step back from the sport for medical reasons, and also having such longevity in the sport, what advice do you have to people your age or about your age to being so successful like you have been?
Um, don't take yourself too seriously, first of all. This is just a sport. We do it for the fun of it. I see a lot of people doing it for the wrong reasons. Enjoy what you're doing. Eat healthy, sleep well, train. Find yourself a coach, a strength and training coach that could help you out. Fix your weaknesses, because a lot of us have little weaknesses, and that's what makes the difference when you get in the ring. But having fun is what we preach for. If you don't have fun, stop doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to be good at what you're doing, just put the effort, put the time. I mean, we all have 24 hours in one day. It all depends on what you want to do with it. Those are some of the choices that I've decided a long time ago. My health to me is extremely important. That's why still at my age today, I could still do things that maybe other people can't do. So yeah, have fun doing it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, George, for coming on the Power Chat series.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And congratulations again. And to everyone watching, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.